What's up, everyone? Welcome to the January 24th edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can find me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at Prize Picks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today, we're going to take a look at 5 of the top tournament options for tonight's 4-game NBA slate on DraftKings. Keep in mind, there's a lot of moving parts. Even though there's only 4 games tonight, there is a ton of injury news, a lot of questionable players, and things are going to change between now and lock. Be sure to tune into the deeper dive from 5 Eastern to 6 Eastern, and from live before lock from 6 Eastern up until tip, and you'll get more up-to-date information there. We'll obviously talk about how injury news changes things later on in the day. But for now, taking an early look at 5 of the top tournament options. Starting at number 5, JaVale McGee, $5,100 center on DraftKings. Right now, projected for 9% ownership with a 14% chance of being in the optimal lineup. McGee's a very high upside option. In his starts this year, he's averaged 1.24 DraftKings points per minute. He's averaged 21.3 minutes per game. While that playing time total is lower than you typically get from your starters, he's also frequently in foul trouble. So he does still have those 25, 26-minute games in his range of outcomes if he's playing well and able to avoid fouls. But on average, you can only really expect 21 to 22 minutes. Even so, at his price tag, if he's going to average around 1.25 fantasy points per minute, that's some serious upside. We know that he can really do damage. All you have to do is look back one game. He had 35 DraftKings points in just 18 minutes. He offers legitimate 8 to 10x upside at this price tag and relatively low ownership. Number 4, Jared Allen is now questionable. That came through a couple of minutes ago, but he's projected for 13% ownership with an 18% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He is $8,000 on DraftKings. He's averaged 1.11 DraftKings points per minute this season. If he's able to go, he's likely to give you 33 or 34 minutes. There are some better center options in terms of chances of success, and that's going to keep ownership away from Allen, but he's still a very high upside option. He offers some stock upside, defensive stat upside, and he's a capable rebounder. He's a good point per minute guy. Not the best at his position, but also not getting quite as much ownership right now as he probably deserves. Number 3, sticking with the Cleveland Cavaliers, $9,300 Darius Garland, projected for 21% ownership with a 24% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Garland has averaged 1.1 DraftKings points per minute this season, but his production does also increase when you account for Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio not being on the floor, as will be the case for the rest of the season. So Garland is likely to lead this team in usage, or at least be second, depending on what happens with Kevin Love. But he's also likely to give you 35, 36 minutes, if not more. Rajon Rondo's questionable as his backup. Rondo shouldn't make a huge difference, but if he is out, it's likely you could get even a couple more minutes for Garland, and he approaches 37 or 38 minutes. Not a very appealing game, not a very appealing matchup, but certainly a very high upside option. Number 2, Gogibatazi, another center on this slate, $6,200. He's averaged 1 DraftKings point per minute this season. He's projected for 24% ownership with a 27% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Domantas Sabonis is out once again for Indiana. Miles Turner is out. That should mean that Batadze is starting. They're going up against a Pelicans team that traditionally plays a center for 48 minutes between Jonas Valanciunas, Jackson Hayes, and sometimes Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. So as long as he can avoid foul trouble, you're likely to get low to mid 30s in minutes from Gogibatazi. There's no one really to take those minutes away from him. So he looks like a very strong option at this price point. And number 1, this ownership has the potential to change drastically depending on what happens with Jared Allen. But right now, Kevin Love is projected for 22% ownership with a 28% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's averaged 1.29 DraftKings points per minute this season. On average, if Allen plays, I don't necessarily expect Love to play a lot more minutes with Lauri Markkanen out. I think it's likely that Markkanen's minutes are mostly absorbed by some combination of Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, Cedi Osman, Lamar Stevens, those types of guys. But there is the potential that you get a couple more minutes. And for someone that averages about 1.3 fantasy points per minute at a pretty cheap price tag, a couple of minutes are just really important. So you can always get more playing time if Allen's in foul trouble or Mobley's in foul trouble. Love can play more that way. But even if you just get a couple more minutes, a couple minutes of Mobley at the 3 alongside Love and Allen, that could be really, really useful for Love. So he'll look great. If Jared Allen sits, his ownership will also skyrocket. But even if Allen is in, I think in tournaments, Love looks like he's going a little bit under-owned. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on DraftKings as things stand right now: JaVale McGee, number 5, Jared Allen, number 4, Darius Garland, number 3, Gogibatazi, number 2, and Kevin Love, number 1.